Light pollution is something you might not have given much thought to or even been aware of, but some scientists say it's a serious problem that comes with real health concerns. I sat down with James Lowenthal, Smith College Professor of Astronomy, to learn more.
Light pollution is excessive light at night from lights that are poorly designed or too bright or too blue that cast light out where it's not meant to go, and it causes harm.
What kind of harm does it cause?
Causes harm to human health and safety, harm to wildlife, and it robs us of a naturally dark night sky that includes the stars in the Milky Way, which 80% of Americans can't see anymore because of light pollution.
So when you talk about harm to health, what kinds of effects would people notice?
It turns out that all animals, including humans, which of course evolved on an Earth that's spinning every 24 hours, have evolved to depend on darkness at night. We need a good dark night to sleep. The sleep professional will say this all the time: if you want to sleep well, no lights, that's the best way to sleep. It's the same thing for all animals. As a result now of light pollution, where our cities and communities are just flooded with bright lights, really all night long, a lot of times seeping into your bedroom windows at night, we're deprived of a good night's sleep, and a whole host of more serious problems, even cancer, which can be exacerbated by hormone problems that are linked to light pollution.
So what do you think the solution is for this? Because, people go out at night, they want to be able to see if they're going out downtown somewhere. How do you make the case that this really needs to be addressed?
Thanks for the question. It's fortunately so easy. It's a local problem with a local solution. Every city, every town is in control of its own lighting. And it's unlike climate change or air pollution or water pollution, which tends to be regional or even global on scale, and a single town or community would have no hope of actually fixing it. Here, any city, Springfield, Northampton, anybody can make its own decisions and fix its own light pollution problem and safeguard its own population and protect its own wildlife and bring back the view of the stars overhead.
How do you do that, though? What does the city have to do?
We don't need as much light as most cities have. It used to be in the old days before electric lights that people would plan their travel around the light of the full moon. The full moon is plenty bright enough for most people to make their way traveling. Now a typical street light is 50 or 100 or more times brighter than that. And that's just the beginning. We have so many street lights, so many business lights, so many porch lights, all of them shining super bright, shining out in all directions, even up into the sky, that are super blue. Turns out the blue light is especially bad for human health and for animals. And all of those things can be fixed by more careful design and some simple rules that some cities and states have already put into effect.
Do you think it's a hard sell, though? Like, and when you go out and talk to people about this, I'm sure they might say, "Listen, we have a lot of problems, and this doesn't seem to be priority." How do you make the case to Northampton or to Springfield?
Sure. The case, I think, is there are so many reasons to fix light pollution, and there's no reason not to. It's a pure win-win. There's absolutely nothing to be gained from spending extra money and making extra pollution to make extra light that doesn't do any good. How does that help? It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't benefit anybody, and it's actually harmful. So we're paying bills right now to cure people's illnesses or to address their cancer. There is nobody who has not been touched in some way by breast cancer or prostate cancer. Those are hormonal cancers that are affected directly by light pollution, and this is confirmed by major studies, including by Harvard doctors and scientists who studied 100,000 nurses and found that the ones who lived in light polluted areas had a significantly higher rate of breast cancer than those who lived in dark areas, and confirmed by many other studies worldwide as well. So actually, there are financial reasons. When you ask, well, is it a hard sell? Sure, people often say, well, we can't have no light. That's fine. We're not saying don't have no light. We're just saying have better light. We don't need more light. We need better light. The light should go down only. So I won't turn the cup over because it's full of water, but imagine it upside down. If the light were inside there, the light were shining down only, that would be perfect. Instead of shining the light out sideways, we want the light to go down only. And not thousands of times brighter than full moon, maybe just 10 or 50 times brighter at most.
And so when did this become like an important issue for you to start advocating for?
It's been an issue since the invention of the electric light, but it's ramping up and up and up, and it seems to be going only the wrong way lately. Light pollution is growing at a rate of about 2% per year globally, which far outpaces population growth. Here in Massachusetts, the population is essentially stable, but light pollution continues to creep up and up, and you can see maps of light pollution creeping out into even the darkest areas here in western Massachusetts. So it's been around for decades and decades, but it's getting worse and worse. And it's especially now that we are recognizing the very serious effects on human health and wildlife that it's coming more and more into the public consciousness. And there's a growing movement worldwide to try to turn back that tide.
And do you feel like you're making traction here in Massachusetts as you talk to different lawmakers and city officials?
Absolutely. We're making very significant traction. We have there's a terrific organization called the International Dark Sky Association, the IDA, that's based in Tucson. We have a local chapter here in Massachusetts that has been working for the last year plus to help the state adopt a new dark sky friendly bill. And that bill is working its way through the legislature right now. It has 24 co-sponsors around the state, including our local state senator and representative in Northampton, and several others here in western Massachusetts. It has broad support, it has no opposition, and it makes good sense. It'll save the state and towns money. It will improve their health, it'll improve their safety, it will be beneficial for wildlife, and it will help bring back the view of the Milky Way and the stars that many people don't have anymore.
And why do you think that the light pollution has grown so much? Because, you know, people might say, hey, listen, especially at night when you're driving, you hate going down those dark, dark roads where there's no light. You need lights for safety reasons. Why do you think it has gone up to this point where you feel it's really a problem?
I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, it's my feeling is probably innate, maybe even genetic fear of the dark, and a knee-jerk response to that, which is more light. And it's just lack of knowledge and education about the detrimental effects, the negative effects of light pollution. If most people knew that their porch light was actually killing pollinating insects, which are a crucial part of our food chain and ecosystems and are in a serious decline, maybe they would make a different choice. And they would, instead of choosing a porch light that sends light out all over the neighborhood, they would just choose one that sends the light straight down onto the steps where it's useful. City governments that have choices to make about what street lights to replace their old street lights with, if they just knew that it's actually safer for drivers to have the light go down only instead of out, and to have the light be a more amber color than a very glaring blue color, then they would probably make that choice. But the word has been slow to get out, so that's the job of us advocates.
Okay, and are there any areas in the Northeast that are more vulnerable than others?
Every area is vulnerable, especially areas that have not yet changed their old streetlights over to LED streetlights. LEDs are fine, they come in all different colors and brightnesses and designs just like every other light. The advantage of LEDs is that they're generally long-lasting, very durable, and high efficiency. So there's a huge movement now to replace old, the sort of pink, yellow, high-pressure sodium streetlights we all grew up with, replace those with LED streetlights. That's fine, but it's important to choose them carefully, again, so that they're not too blue, not too bright, and so the light goes down only. Cities and towns that have not done that yet should really pause and not rush into early adopting bad lights when there are good lights available.